Welcome to Sexy Sunday, where we analyze sex scenes from films and TV shows, discuss what they tell us about the story, the characters, and more importantly, whether they're hot or not. I'm Jessica.
I'm Anushka.
And this is Sexy Sunday.
Today we're going to talk about 50 Shades of Grey and After, which are two films, if they can be called that. No, they're definitely two films. We were going to talk about the sex scenes.
Yeah.
But we very quickly realized the sex scenes aren't really informing us that much about the characters, because everything there is to know about the characters is already kind of told throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
So we will talk about them, but we will kind of expand the conversation to fan fictions, the bad boy trope, the very plain girl, like getting all the boys trope. What is wrong with teenage girls, including myself? A look back at myself.
Like how much we're indoctrinated by the it's fine if he's abusive because he loves you.
Yep. So starting with the films. 50 Shades of Grey is an erotic drama directed by Sam Taylor Johnson in 2015, which was based off a fan fiction by E.L. James about Twilight. And After is a romantic drama directed by Jenny Gage in 2019, based off a Wattpad fanfiction about Harry Styles that Anna Todd wrote. So this is all, if you start off with Twilight and One Direction, you already know you're onto something good.
You're onto some juicy content.
Yeah, which I was just telling you, I found it surprising about 50 Shades. To me, I keep on thinking that Twilight is the fan fiction of 50 Shades, because to me vampires feel more like a fan fiction than BDSM stuff.
Definitely. Than some really rich man who then falls for a girl to then do BDSM. It feels like it should be actually they're vampires and
exactly.
They have
that
hot
feels
erotic
more like
sex.
A real life thing, where it's then you throw in vampires and it's the teenage girl has been here. It's weird that it's been completely the opposite. And I guess, to be fair, E.L. James was not a teenage girl when she wrote it, so maybe that's what happens. Maybe she was no, I want the billionaire. I don't care. I'll leave the teenage.
Screw the man that's been around for millennia. Give me the man with money.
So sex scenes count 50 Shades. So we've only done the first films because obviously those film expands way past their welcome. First 50 Shades counts 8 sex scenes, which is actually quite a lot.
I was going to say 7.
And what about After? How many do you think?
3 or 4?
So I counted 2.5 because there's one of them that's starting and then the moment interrupts them. So it's really not that much. For having seen, and for some reason, the other Afters, there's a lot more sex in the other ones. So I think there were 2 massive crimes in 50 Shades for me that I really need to talk about. Yeah. First of all, Jamie Dornan being clean-shaved with an American accent.
His American accent was terrible. I was like, you are not American. And I can hear it. I felt like in 50 Shades, he had no charisma. I felt like he was vacant half the time. And there's that moment where he sniffs her underwear. And I'm like, you don't look like you're into it. You look like you've just, you're like, can I wear these again? That was, that was the look he had on his face,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's not a sexy thing at all.
It's not a sexy thing. It went too quickly into them having a sexual relationship.
What? How did you feel that? I feel like the second crime of this film is that it takes 45 fucking minutes to have a sex scene in it. I went to watch this film thinking there's gonna be nothing but sex, and then they tried to pretend like it was an actual story, and I was really disappointed.
True, there wasn't sex immediately, but it was a flimsy premise. Granted, it is fan fiction. It doesn't have to be the best written story plot. But it was like all of a sudden
they should,
like,
if they're going to make them into a film series, they really should be.
Right?
But yeah.
And I also want to say, from on the back of watching You, Christian Grey is just Joe Goldberg with money.
Yeah, and like saying out loud every single thought that Joe has but keeps to himself. Like he really is. He's like, he's got exactly the same sort of, I need to control this person. I know what's best for her.
Yeah. And the sniffing of the underwear.
Yeah, true. Very true. But they don't have the same sex, what do you call it? Tastes.
No, it's Joe Goldberg with money and a different sexual appetite.
Yeah. And like different kinks.
Yes.
But yeah.
I would also say, sorry.
Yeah, go on. Well, I was just going to talk about Jamie Dornan's face again, because I'm really upset because Jamie Dornan is
the real crime of this
movie. It really is, because Jamie Dornan is someone that I find very attractive, and I really don't fancy. Like, you're putting someone this attractive in a sex film. Like, I was literally just thinking this is going to be amazing, and they really managed to ruin him, and that really upsets me, because he didn't have a beard in Marie Antoinette, and he's so much hotter in that as well. So I don't get it. Is it the hair? Is it just the accent? Is it just the whole vibe? I don't understand, and I need to know. I need to know what went wrong, because it really upsets me.
Yeah, I think it's just the character of Christian Grey.
Yeah, probably.
Like, he's too serious. He's too like, yeah, just serious yet vacant and not really into it. And I don't know, it just, for me, the biggest crime of this movie was that there was so much sex, yet it was not hot. There was maybe one or two scenes.
I did get accidentally kind of like, oh, this is really hot. It's about the way he spunks her really nonchalantly, and I don't know why I think this is really hot. I like the aspect of it that seems like it's just a routine spank. Like, it's just like part of his moves. Like, that's what he does. He doesn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Which again kind of goes with what you're saying, where it's like he doesn't even seem to be that into it. It seems quite mechanical. Like, this is what he does.
Yes. That's the word I was looking for. Mechanical. Like, it's very much just like he's going through the movements. He's not really into it at all.
Also, I love to read, but I swear American films and TV shows make me never want to pick up a book again, because the girls who read are always the most annoying people on earth.
Oh my God. And it's just like, oh my God, she reads. She's not like other girls. She
doesn't think about makeup. Because like, you know that if you think about makeup, you're obviously not a reader. And if you like books, you obviously can't pick up lipstick. Everyone
absolutely not. It's one or the other. You can't have more than one interest. Yeah, like an after where her dorm mate is like, you brought books? Who brings books to college? And it's like,
I know.
Everyone.
Like, literally everyone. She studies literature. Is it normal to think that Christian's brother is hotter than Christian? Not hotter than Jamie Dornan, just hotter than Christian.
Which one? Yeah, I mean, no, because...
Oh, okay. It's not normal.
It should be that if you've got a Christian Grey type character, that he should be the hottest one.
Yeah.
But if you... It means that it's not good casting or directing if the brother is hotter.
Yeah, but did you think he was hotter?
I'm trying to remember what he looks like.
I mean, he's not like the hottest guy alive, but I genuinely was like, I'd rather the film was about him, to be honest. He starts like dating Anna's flatmate, and I was like, they seem like a nice couple. I'd watch that.
Yeah, he is cute. He is. I did wonder why the roommate. I mean, I got lost in the story. To be fair, it was. I mean, the story lost me, I should say.
Yeah.
I also made a note how when Christian and Anna came back, then it's the first time she stayed over and they didn't have sex, and then she's disturbing the flatmate and the brother having sex, and they seem to be having like the tamest sex because they're making no noise whatsoever, and then he just like jumps up and puts his trousers on. I'm like, what kind of sex were you having that you could just like, I don't know, carry on as if nothing is just happening?
They were having, I mean, I know exactly what you mean, but maybe they were having like really quiet sex because they knew they were in the room next door.
Maybe.
Which maybe it was really wild sex, but we just didn't get to experience it because the film should have been about them and their sex life. But also the first time they have sex, I love how Christian Grey is like, let's go straight in there. You've been a virgin for like 1,000 years. Let's just foreplay? No. Who has time for that? I get that people often don't foreplay in their first time because they're often young and inexperienced.
Yeah.
But it's not his case. He should know better.
Right.
But it's fine because she has an orgasm anyway as soon as he touches her cheek, so she was probably fine.
Yeah, like how did he manage to get straight in there without her wincing in pain?
No, because I would say that the after first time, which by the way I had to like go back and check whether I'd missed the first time they have sex or not, because they're literally living together and there's a montage of them like kissing on the bed, being in each other's or whatever, and I was like, so are they having sex and we've just missed it? That felt like something that the film would have shown. And then I realized that the sex scene again happens 50 minutes into this horrible film that I was watching just for the sex scenes, and I was like, how did my life bring me to this moment? Like, what has gone wrong?
Just reevaluating all your life choices up to that point, being like, what am I doing? I'm watching a film where the love interest's name is Harden.
Literally, like
his name is Hard-On.
I'm really surprised they've not got a joke about him having a hard-on at some point in there. I was like, guys,
it's a missed opportunity.
But anyway, I think the first time in After is a tiny bit more realistic because she's like, oh, just go slow. She seems like she's in a teeny tiny bit of pain, and not far from me to call this film like a realistic account of anything. But I actually thought, you know what, because to me I was like, oh, After is like a bad 50 Shades without the BDSM stuff, which is saying something. But actually, having rewatched it after watching 50 Shades, I'd say the story makes a little bit more sense, and it's not a film that I like, but at least it was a little bit more realistic. Like, it wasn't completely realistic, but like the idea of a girl starting college who has been really sheltered her entire life, who's living with a very controlling mother, has been dating her boyfriend since she was like 5 years old. Like, also, how do we believe that it's possible that her and her boyfriend have not only never had sex, but never even touched each other? Like, it's like you're basically siblings.
I was so convinced at the beginning that they were siblings.
But
like, I texted you.
I'm guessing they did it on purpose.
I think so, because her roommate makes a comment about, oh, your older brother's cute.
Yeah.
Which made me feel validated.
Yeah,
in the fact that I was like, okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
It's actually not a bad move on the film's part to like make it so that we understand straight away the dynamic is not like a sexy one kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
But I think that's not an unbelievable story for that kind of like not secluded, but like innocent, hasn't really lived much because she's kind of been kept from anything fun basically her entire life. Suddenly finds herself with a lot of freedom and falls for the bad guy, which you know, like, bad boys are a massive trope we're going to talk about in depth later. But I don't think it's completely unrealistic. Whereas 50 Shades, this girl has clearly never really had any interest for anyone. She's a lot older than the girl in... Well, she's maybe not a lot older. I think she's supposed to be 22 or something. But at least like the girl in After is like 18, I think. Yeah,
she's either finishing college or in graduate school. I don't know. But she also doesn't have a smartphone. She has like a flip phone, which doesn't feel believable in this day and age. Like it feels weird in 50 Shades. There's certain points where you're like, why has no one stepped in, like her mum, when she's on the phone to her mum and her mum asks her about Christian and she starts crying. At that point, a mum would be like, oh shit, are you okay?
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like brushed over. Like there's certain interactions that kind of didn't feel real.
Yeah, and I just don't think, I don't know, I just think it's a bit more of a complete, like, out of the blue thing for her to suddenly be attracted to him, to suddenly be like get like have sex with him when she's never had sex. Like, why, again, like, I don't think they have sex quickly, but in terms of like she's never had sex and then they kiss and have sex pretty much straight away, I just felt like it was a bit less believable. Why would she be into him? And even why would he be into her? Whereas in After, I kind of see why Tessa, like, he represents everything that her mother would hate, basically. So he represents like the opposite to what her life has been like so far, and now she's suddenly got all this freedom and she's going for that, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, but I do agree with you that like even though the story of After gets really, it has some very stereotypical moments, it's still like feels more of that coming of age type of movie than 50 Shades, where it doesn't feel like it's hot enough to be a porn movie, and it's not romantic enough to be a rom-com, and it's too much weird drama, like all the drama around the contract. I'm like, how did you make something like this, like a contract that could have kind of had this sexy undertone to it? How did you make it so bland and boring? Like, I would say the only sexy part is when she like they have a board meeting about it, and I feel like in that point it's like the first time where I feel like there's sexual tension between them. It is weird of the lighting in that room, but but I would say that that's like the first time they do sexual tension. But yeah, it just
I agree,
doesn't have like a place in a genre.
No, I agree. Also, something else that I've noticed in both films, not only is their relationship with the main guy quite unhealthy, but quite unhealthy, some might say.
Understatement of the year.
But they've also got super unhealthy, controlling relationships with the other guys in their lives. So, like, when you see Anna and her friend, what is he called? Jose?
Yeah.
Which,
yes.
I really like this actor because he's in a show called How to Make It in America that I really like. And so when I saw him, I always forget that he's in this because I wished better things for him. And every time I see this film, which I can't believe I've seen 3 times in my entire life, I'm always like, oh, dude, what are you doing here? And also, when it's like, he tries to kiss Anna, and his reasoning when she clearly doesn't want to kiss him is to say, like, please, like, come on, please, let's kiss. It's just like, I don't, like, why would you want to have to beg someone to kiss you? I don't understand. But he's clearly quite like, he's not forceful in a scary way. I don't think Anna was ever thinking like, oh my God, I'm in danger. But it's still not a very nice thing when your supposedly friend is like not taking no for an answer. And then in After, her boyfriend, wink wink, Theo from You,
which I think you told me before I watched it that he was in it, and then I texted you being like, oh, the brother's kind of cute, and you were like, did you see who baby Theo was? And was like, no wonder you fancy him.
Yeah. And he's like super weird as well. Like, he's like, what? You're at a party? You've been drinking, which also is what Christian does. But that's just like fucking weird. Like, why are you so weird about your girlfriend having a life? So it's just like it's not even just their love interests who are like that. It's like everyone around them. They're just like, the people who write these stories have never either met a normal guy, which I swear they're out there. They just need to go out more, or that's just the only thing that makes them fantasize. But I don't know, because clearly we're not supposed to root for the boyfriend in After or Jose in in 50 Shades. So I don't really understand, because it's weird, because I feel like when they're showing us Noah and Jose, we're supposed to be like against what they're doing, but then they're showing
Yeah.
us Christian and Haldon doing exactly the same thing, and we're supposed
If
to be
not
like rooting for,
worse.
if not worse, and we're supposed to be rooting for it. So I'm like, this is just inconsistent writing, guys.
I was just gonna say that I agree. Like I feel like not Theo. I can't remember the character's Noah. Uh
No.
in After, like he's so controlling and then turns up unannounced, which can be romantic, but also I feel like it's kind of a controlling move on his part.
Yeah.
Um and it's also like these plain girls have all the men after them. How?
How? I don't know.
How?
I don't know. Um, just while we're still on this, and then I think we should move on to that. But like, just while we're still kind of on those films and not in general,
Yeah.
I really have a problem with people, and Christian does that, calling girls, like saying "good girl." I always feel like they're talking to a dog, and I just don't find it. Like, surely "good girl" is like just should be reserved for dogs, right?
I mean, like I can see how in the kind of BDSM setup, it would be hot to say good girl, because it's kind of like the cut. But I never, and thank you for putting this in my brain, but also not thank you. I've never thought about it in terms of a dog. But you're right. Like
That's
it
just
is,
where my brain goes
good
every time.
girl.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, this takes me right off.
Yeah.
But
But before we,
yeah,
sorry, you go.
well, obviously there's like a whole dad dynamic with Christian and Anna. Like, he's literally telling her, I can't remember when, he's like, let's get you cleaned up, which I'm just like, again, are you talking to your 4-year-old daughter? Are you talking to your dog? Who are you talking to? Why is this the person you're having sex with? And I'm wondering, are they trying to justify him being like her dad because Anna's dad died when she was a kid? Is that what they're doing?
Or
Like,
maybe it's
she
like,
needs a father kind of thing.
or maybe it's the whole like daddy issues thing,
Yeah, well, that's
that
what I
they're
mean.
like, oh, okay, yeah, then in
Yeah.
that case, because it like, and then this is kind of what I want to talk about as well, is like it's not an accurate representation of a BDSM relationship. Like it's playing on that trope of like, oh, he's a broken boy, they can only do broken sex, and it's like that's not it. And there's also that scene towards the end of the movie where she's like, show me what you like. And then she gets where he spanks her and she has to count. And
Yeah.
then she has fucking safe words. And then after he's done, she's like, I don't touch me. I don't want this. And it's like, dude, if you weren't enjoying it, you have safe words. You have safe words.
Exactly. And it's just mean to be like, show me your words, and then shame him for it. Like, I just think it's like, it's totally fine if it's not
Exactly.
her thing. And if it's too much, she should say it. But she should say it while it's happening, not like blame him for it after. That's what you said you wanted him to do, was show him your, like, yeah, she's a dick. Here's my take from it. I absolutely love the moment in the playroom where she bites her lip for the 50th time in 5 minutes, and he says like, you're biting your lip, you know what that does to me, turn around. And you're like, ooh, what's he gonna do? And he fucking braids her hair. What it does to him is like, literally what it does to him for her to bite her lip is turn him into a 13-year-old girl at a sleepover. That's what it does. Like, I was just like, what am I watching? Yeah.
Salzburg brings out the snacks and like this, and we're gonna make friendship bracelets.
Oh my god, the braids are definitely the step just before this. I bet the friendship bracelets were coming after. 100%.
That's why he's got all the rope.
Oh my god, we finally cracked it. What Christian Grey is not to spank and whip people. It's just to have a best friend who you can like exchange makeup tips about and eat popcorn while watching like X-rated movies.
That's what the playroom's really for.
Also, I love how when Haldon says to Tessa, it was fun, but I don't date. It's basically Christians. I don't have
Yeah.
sex. I fuck. Like, I love how they both have
Yes.
their little things.
I think I made a mental note of that. I'm just like, oh, fucking course.
And it doesn't date, but it will move in with you after like having
Yeah.
kissed you twice. Like, obviously, that's a totally normal thing to do for someone who doesn't date. One thing that both films get a gold star for, it's like condoms. Condoms all around.
Yeah.
Condoms all the time. Love it.
So many
Love to see it.
condoms. Except I feel like the first time that Christian and Anna have sex, they don't have to use a condom.
Oh, really? I thought they did, but you might be right. But I think like coming off rewatching Industry a couple of weeks ago, and watching these two films, it's really shocking how none of them managed to build up any kind of tension. Like there is no sexual tension that you feel and you're like, oh my god, when they finally have sex. And there could have been, because they wait fucking ages to have sex. So I'm really shocked that they didn't manage to like build something more. When you see, like, I know Industry have a lot of episodes, but I mean, in one episode I feel like there was more sexual tension in the pilot of Industry than there was in these entire films.
100%. Should we go on to the plain girl trope, or do you have more things that you want to say?
What do you think?
Well, I think that it's like you can like they're so plain which, by the way, they're plain, but they're the prettiest girls. Like exactly, the actresses. Yeah, obviously. It's like they're not really plain.
No, not at all. But I have to say, and again, that's probably me being a terrible person, but I'm glad they're not, because I know people want to see more like normal people on TV. I'm not in this fight. I'm sorry, but if I want to see regular normal people, I'll go in the street, I'll look in a mirror. Like, if I'm looking at a film, if I'm watching a film, I want people to be attractive. Like, that's my shameful confession. I like pretty people.
Shame. No, I'm joking.
I know it's not cool to say it, but you know what? It is the truth. But yeah, they're obviously not plain at all. They're super hot, and they're planing them up by putting either glasses on them or not putting too much makeup on them, which is
or putting their hair up in a ponytail.
Yeah,
and like dressing them in slightly drabby clothes.
Exactly.
And getting them to read books.
Yeah.
But I think it's so that you can like project yourself. Like, they're so plain that you can project any part of yourself onto them. And like, it's meant to speak to, oh, you don't feel like you belong? Don't worry. There's a guy out there for you who will buy you lots
control your life.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's all gonna get worse.
It's all going downhill from here.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, I think it's so they're relatable, which is like, why do you assume that everyone's plain? That's weird. Like,
yeah.
But it's obviously more relatable than someone with a super strong personality, which will only be relatable to a very few people.
Exactly. And it also kind of speaks to like the quieter girls and like the kind
of girls who write fan fictions. No offense to those girls. I definitely like wrote a lot of super cringy stuff when I was like a teenager and stuff, but I think 100%. It's like about observing people and being like, oh, in my dream world like this would happen or whatever, which is not the girls with the loudest personalities. The other reason why they have to be super plain is because that way the guys can mold them into what they want, which is a lot easier than if the girl has a super loud personality, because she probably won't let you.
That's true. And like, actually watching both of these movies, I like watched them as satire, and it was a lot more comforting.
That's what I was gonna say. I think 50 Shades of Grey is a comedy, and we're all missing out on it, and that's why no one likes it. I genuinely, if you watch it as a comedy, it's actually watchable.
Yes, the whole time I was like, this is a satire. This is just again, this is just Joe Goldberg and like some, I don't know, but it was just like, watching it from that point of view, it was like kind of a warning sign of these are the red flags that you need to take heed of. If a guy does this to you, run for the hills.
Yeah. It's the modern American Psycho, where everyone's missing the point.
in 10, 15 years, people it'll be like Jennifer's Body, where
Yeah,
it'll be like
cult classic.
much later on, be like, wow, they really like the marketing did not do it justice.
Maybe, who knows?
It just feels like they're like it is such a trope that in pretty much all these movies, like Twilight and 50 Shades and after, it's like, oh, they like to have their head in the books, but oh no, they are brought astray by wayward boy and she's going to fix him. Like that's also a big thing of like, she's got a big heart and she's gonna fix him.
And obviously they're virgins, because if they'd been touched before, they would just
they're always fucking virgins.
But that's what I mean, just like that
pure status.
And again, it's easier to mold them into what they want if it's like they've got no experience, they don't know what they like or what they don't like. It's like a lot easier to be like, you're going to be liking this because that's all you're gonna know, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like that purity thing as well, being like, oh, she's special, she's not like those other girls. Mm-hmm. It's like another layer of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like you don't deserve a great abusive love story if you're a slut. Is the rule. So girls, be a slut is the fucking lesson here. Just slut around for a bit, have some fun. You'll avoid the psychos.
Yeah, know what the red flags are to look out for, and then avoid them. Have great sex instead.
Exactly. This is actually genuinely the lesson from these films, like 100%.
This is what I'm choosing to believe too.
Yep. The other thing that we've been fed is definitely the idea of the boy who has troubles and needs you to fix him.
Yes.
And that's something that, I'm actually surprised this is still a trope that exists now, because when I was a teenager, that was all the rage, and I kind of would have assumed that by now it would have been done with, but clearly it hasn't. Like I was reading that the kissing booth, which is another great way to spend an hour and a half of your life, or 7 if you're watching all of them, but like the it's been directed by a guy, but it was also a Wattpad book to begin with, which I didn't know, but also does not surprise me, which was written by a girl called Beth Recalls when she was 15. I'm just like, I mean, good for her, 100%. Like, good for all those girls who like wrote all those things probably thinking it wasn't gonna do anything for them, and now probably are sitting on a fucking pile of money bigger than I'll ever make. Like, criticizing, but obviously this is like, good on them. But I think the kissing booth has exactly the same thing of like, she's gained controlled again by everyone. It's not even just like the guy she's interested in. It's like her best friend is also like, you're not allowed to sleep with that guy. You're not
there's like all these rules that they make as best friends.
This is
that don't make no sense. Who makes all these rules when very unhealthy? But who makes all those rules as a kid, and then as like a late teen and early adult is like
things they still apply.
Yeah.
And obviously the older brother is also like a bad boy. He gets into fights, he rides a motorcycle, no one understands him until you. This is just like basically exactly the same story again. And I just find it really interesting that that's still what teen girls, or in the case of 50 Shades girls in general, fantasize about. Because I remember being a teenager and being like, as I told you earlier, like my friend was like, oh my god, me and this guy who they were kind of on and off, and they had this super passionate, like, we break up, we get back together, it's always really hot, it's always really tumultuous, like argued, had a massive fight in the street, they were like screaming at each other. She was like, it was wild, like because she talked to another guy or he was jealous about something or whatever. And I was literally 13-year-old me was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard, I hope it happens one day, you're so lucky. Just weird.
It is, because you're just like, oh my god, he cares about me so much. He wants me all to himself. Like,
Yeah.
he'll fight for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, disabuse, dismanipulation.
Yeah, it's not coming from a place of him caring at all. It's like he cares about himself.
No.
But that's, I just found it interesting that there's something that attractive about it. And like, that's not what I would want now, because first of all, I'm married and that'd be weird. Like, that'd be such an exhausting relationship to be in
So
every single day of my life. But also, I wouldn't have time for it anymore. I'd be like, this is great, but I've been a teenager before and I don't need this. But I still kind of get the side of, well, you know what? At least it's not boring.
Yeah.
I'd find it boring now, but I understand how, as a teenager, I was like, well, at least there's things happening.
Yeah, because I think, well, especially when with these sorts of movies that we're fed of, like, to be in a relationship is to like fight for each other, and like, yeah, you fall out and you disagree, but like you always come back together. So it's kind of like, if we were just agreeing all the time, it would be boring. So the fact that we're like fighting for each other, even though what we're fighting about is super toxic, it's like, at least we're fighting for each other.
Yeah. And also just drama. I think a lot of teenagers crave drama because obviously your hormones are all over the place. Everything is like a big deal. But also, I've got a theory, which is teenagers crave drama because they're bored in class, and that's something to think about. Like, 100%, I created so much drama in my love life just because I was bored. I am convinced of it. Like, I didn't care about people, but if I was in history class, it was like, do I really want to listen about Gorbachev, or do I want to think about this guy and what this text meant? And it's like, I don't actually care about the guy, I don't care about the text, but this is so much more entertaining when you're like 15. And I genuinely think that comes from that. And also, you've got things to talk about, and like, it's you do like to be, I mean, I know I like to be looking cool, and I don't think I ever actually looked that cool, but I definitely would rather tell my friends about, like, so this guy like sent me this text and I don't know what it means, and then we can be like, oh, and it's like, oh, she's the kind of girl who gets texts that we don't know what they mean. It's so much better than being like, yeah, nothing's happening in my life.
Yeah, because that's the things you care about as a teenager. You're just like, I want to belong to the cool group. Like, I want to be known. And also your hormones are raging and you're like, you don't really understand how to be a human properly yet. So you're just like, drama.
Exactly.
It's like, that's why teen dramas can be really fun, because you're just like, yeah, you just have all these emotions raging and you don't really know what to do with them all.
I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's that bad. It kind of depends on how you deal with it, I guess. But I think like it's better to learn as a teenager how to deal with those things, because when you're a teenager, yes, you might be more impressionable in some cases, but you're also probably a bit more supported. You often have your parents, you're not living on your own, you're not really making your own decisions as much, and you might learn from an early age, oh, this is the kind of thing that like makes people a dickhead. And then when you're older and you're left to your own device, you might recognize those things and be like, oh, I'm not going there. I've been there. Not good. Whereas if you're like protected, or not having to deal with it, again, I'm not talking about anything like super bad here. I'm talking about the classic like guy who's like super nice to you and then on the next day doesn't talk to you, like things more classic bad behavior from people. Do you know what I mean?
Than like human trafficking. Obviously, that's like on the extreme end. I don't know why that was what came into my head, but sure, let's go with
that. Like, yeah, obviously just not
teenager
anything
things
like this. Yeah, obviously, everyone goes through this when they're 15, right? Yeah, that's obviously, I don't mean anyone beating you up. I don't mean anyone like nothing that's like got a massive impact, but things that are just going to make you very, very, very sad, basically. I think it's good to learn early how to deal with them and recognize them, because when you're older, they might take bigger proportions if you're like in a way.
And when you're older, like if you've not learn what is actually like a green flag and what is a red flag, then it's more likely you might settle down with this person, have kids with this person. Like obviously you can still get pregnant as a teenager, but like if you're around your parents, there's more chance of like, I don't know, having someone to talk to or confide in. Like obviously some parents are better than others, but like there's more of a support there. But then I think you learn the lessons harder as you get older.
Well, actually, I was just gonna say, like, at least Christian Grey, I don't think really fits the bad boy trope. Like, he fits it in the sense of, he's got like the dark childhood, etc. But he's not a bad boy. Like when you see him, he's kind of the opposite. Like he's very clean, very.
Especially when you compare it to Harden.
Yeah, exactly.
Who has all the tattoos and
the leather jacket.
British. Yeah, the Devon jacket. He's British when everyone's American. Like there's a lot of mystery around him. Whereas Christian
he's
like
more like the classic bad boy trope.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's like, because with Christian, it's like he's kind of meant to be this bad boy, but they don't lean into it hard enough for for us to believe, or like, for us to believe it and even to want to see more of it in a way. Because it's like he's good looking and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
But they don't even use that to the full potential.
No. Also, one thing that I wonder is, are bad boys more attractive, especially when you're a teenager, because you think they're going to be more mature, because they seem like they're more experienced?
That's a good point. I think especially if you're like the quiet one. Like I remember boys would be like, "Oh, you're mature from your age. I'm mature because I'm older."
Yeah.
And it was kind of like drawing you in.
But also, some people are mature for their age. Like I say this to people, and I'm not trying to control and have sex with them. Like I think it's also a valid thing to say. Some people are genuinely mature for their age, and you're surprised by it, and you're telling them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm saying this more in the sense of like in a romantic, like sexual setting, rather than like.
But can't
saying
both things be true? Like maybe they genuinely thought you were married for your age. What?
Yeah, I got married at 16 because I wanted to have sex with my boyfriend.
With my 45-year-old boyfriend, who thought I was very mature for my age. Yeah, I know it's a thing. Like people always say, like, yeah, if an older guy tells you you're mature for your age, it's like manipulating you. But it's like both things can be true. He can be manipulating you and still think you are mature for your age.
No, it's very true. But I think that sometimes is said in the way of like, oh, you're mature, like ignore these warning signs.
Right. Back to bad boys. I kind of want to talk about one good example of subverting the trope.
Please.
Which I would say, have you ever watched DOC?
I haven't.
Oh, well, that's my example is Ryan Atwood is the main protagonist in DOC, and he starts off being like in juvie, and he comes from like a really tough, like he's had a really tough childhood, and he's 16, but he's definitely like mature for his age. It's me trying to have sex with him. He's like, had to deal with a lot, let's say. And I think he definitely has this, he's very closed off. He's very clever, but in a way that's like understated. He's not a nerd, but he's actually super clever. And he's very, he doesn't let people in. And then there's this one girl who he does let in a little bit. He trusts her when he doesn't trust anyone else. So on paper, he's kind of the bad boy, but actually he's really not. And he's a super like unproblematic character. And he actually fixes it. It's not the girl who has to fix him. It's him who has to constantly try to fix his girlfriend and look after her and etc. And I think,
interesting.
I mean, I might be missing out on something completely. You might be watching the show and be like, what are you talking about? But having seen it many, many times, I genuinely can't think of a time where Ryan is the actual trope, when he, at the start, you kind of think that's where it might be going.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
We always appreciate a good subversion.
Yeah.
Especially one that subverts expectations. Because the OC was like early 2000s, wasn't it? Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
So
early
it's like you had a lot of those tropes back then, as well as you do obviously unfortunately still do now.
Yeah.
So for it to be turned on its head in the early 2000s, it's impressive.
I have to say, I think the OC is the best teen drama ever.
Ooh, hot take here.
Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about trope-wise? Or like, I guess there wasn't a lot of sex scenes analysis, but honestly it wasn't very easy. Like, what's your favorite sex scene in After?
There's not really many to choose from.
No, there's literally just two.
I do it's not a sex scene per se, but I do like when he, like, they're at the lake and he goes to finger her.
Oh yeah.
But he doesn't really.
But he doesn't do it, yeah.
No.
Because he's like,
I kind of
have you never been touched before?
I enjoyed this accent. I enjoyed this very much.
What's your favorite sex scene in, what's it called, 50 Shades? Is it the ice cube?
It's not it's when he's playing the piano and she goes and sits on top of him. That's my favorite.
Nice.
Is yours the turning over and spanking?
Yeah, probably.
Or is it the moving the leg? Because I enjoyed that too. When I watched that, I was like, oh, and then I had to rewind it to be like, was that the one Anushka was talking about?
It was. Like, he moves her leg with his foot to like spread her legs when she's like got her hands tied up in the playroom. And I just like a guy who can like multitask. He's like, my hands are busy right now. I'll just use my foot, no problem.
As how hot did you find the movies?
Oh shit. All right, so yeah, I forgot we were supposed to do this. Okay, so sex scene. What is it called? 50 Shades. Sex scene.
Sex scene, the movie.
Sex scene, the movie of sex scenes. I wish it was a movie of sex scenes. It would have been better. Like if I didn't have to listen to the stupid dialogue. 50 Shades is gonna be a 5.5, 6.
Oh wow.
What about you?
I was gonna say 3.
Oh right. Well, I'm only
like 3.5, 4.
Yeah, no, like... actually you're right. I think because we've just talked about the food and
skewed your entire
and the flip over and the flip. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is a hot film, but actually these are two like literally nanosecond scenes in a very long film. Yeah, I'm going to change my answer, please, to a 3.5.
Is that your final answer?
This is my final answer. Thank you, and please and thank you. And After, I'm going to have it be a 2.
Yeah.
We don't even really see sex, and when we do, it's like the first time, and it's just a bit awkward and super slow. It's just not very sexy.
Super
tender. Oh, this hasn't happened in so long, but we're doing so well. This is why I love industry that has none of this bullshit.
It does not, but I was thinking to myself, I haven't said it in a while. I need to keep you on your toes.
It's been a really nice few weeks. All right, so what are we going to talk about next week?
We're going to talk about American Psycho.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's just so you can drool all over Christian Bale.
Yeah, and also like just monopolize the show completely and talk about this film that I've seen like 1,000. Like, you don't even need to turn up. I'll take it from there.
It would just be my private live podcast where sometimes I join in.
Exactly. It'll be like one of the voice notes that I leave you. It's just me monologuing. All right. Well,
see you next time.